Boy, would you just look at that sunset. Man, it's pretty. Hey, y'all. Saturday evening. I had a full day at it today. I thought I'd kind of reminisce this evening, if you would. Some of you have been following since we got here in late April. And didn't start off to really do a daily video, but in fact I was doing 2 a day then, because it was mainly for family and kind of updating the restoration of this old place, as it was so grown up and unkempt for almost a decade. And I hadn't got over this side much, maybe once every 2 weeks or so. This is where a lot of the work happened, because it was just all overgrown. But I had coffee out this morning underneath the magnolia tree next to our babies that we lost in 1 week of each other on this old Woden Road. And just kind of thinking about some of the cool moments. Shoot, it hadn't been that long, really. Y'all remember this one? Maybe some of you do. That's old Stump Never Quit right there. You have to go by. I think it was late May when we did that video. It was an old dead pine tree that we couldn't chop down to save our lives, so I tried to burn it down, and it burned down, but that old Stump's heart wouldn't let it quit. It's still standing, and I ain't gonna mess with it. If it fought me that hard, I'm gonna let it win. It'll probably be there when this whole place is falling down. Who knows? But good times on the place. Thank goodness for the drought in one way. I didn't have to clear this but once or twice, and it stayed pristine pretty much, as them old weeds couldn't tolerate that drought, just as the grass couldn't. But had a pretty full day. I got a little shower this afternoon. Not going to complain. We did have some good sunshine on the corn. I don't know if y'all saw earlier, but I was so in awe of all the bees that were pollinating. That's a blessing. It was bees and ladybugs out there today. But I did see a job that, again, for those of y'all just tuning in here recently, there's a, when I first got here, this old magnolia tree has been here as long as I can remember, and Mama's daily mission was to keep every leaf off the ground. So when I got here, the thatch was, oh, you can imagine, it was 6-7 inches deep. And I got rid of it, and it didn't fall too much, and I kept up with it, but that garden has pulled me away. And y'all remember these old chairs? Look at that. Tell me that is old school right there. Had somebody get rid of them, and I said, man, I'll take them. That works perfect. I love this old chair. But I was sitting out here this morning for a minute in between tasks, and old magnolia leaves started talking to me, or at least Mima did. Said, boy, you better get them things up. So I got that to do. I can't help but mention our 2 fur babies. North Jordan still has plans to make a little monument, but they're buried side by side there. It's an Abby. Dogs have quite some time, and when we moved out here, they got out of the back fence, or Malta did, and you can hear that traffic. Got hit on that old road. She didn't know any better. And then Abby followed shortly thereafter. Just horrible. Anyway, we've got old Hudson now, and he's a mess. He's figured out how to get out of that fence. So we've had to come up with a couple of different solutions, but he doesn't dig out from underneath it. Believe it or not, I was watching him today. It just blows my mind. He wants out so bad to be right under our feet that it's a cyclone fence, and he latches on with his teeth onto the cyclone and pulls the gate till the hinge turns enough for him to get out. That's wanting out bad. So we've had to come up with some modifications on that. I just got back from going across the street. We've got reminded me of what my Mima said, that my great-grandmother said her mother, when they'd come back from fishing down there on Angelina or the Natchez back before San Rayburn, said they'd be walking along and somebody yell out from the porch, how many did y'all catch? And Ma Duke was her name, and she'd say, more than we could eat. More than we could eat. That's all she'd tell them. Well, we don't have many watermelons, but it is more than we can eat. So went over and talked to a neighbor. They don't look like much, but every one we cut open's been sweet as sugar. So we'll carry a couple of them over there to them and let them enjoy it. But everything's coming along. My biggest mission a day. Of course, I've got thousands. I don't know how. I really don't know how. Looking back, I had the energy to clear cut this thing with a little bit of hand tools I had. I guess focusing on that all day, every day was fairly easy, but hadn't run out of steam. But I've sure slowed it to more of a chug than a full-out locomotive. But you know, I found, and I think y'all can attest to this, the wanting and the journey is sometimes the best part. Because once you get it all done, then what do you do? So I imagine there'll always be something to do here. So I don't let it get overwhelming. I just take a project at a time. And I know now how much Memo must have struggled in the later years that she tried to maintain this place. Now I know why we always had a list when we came. Did y'all ever have a list from your grandparents when you showed up? Well, if you was a working age, you probably did. What I'm very blessed with is the treasures that make themselves manifest on this old place. Some of which I've walked by since I've been here in May. Had no use to me. Didn't even know what I'd ever use it for, but I didn't throw it away. And now as I begin to cultivate these chickens in this garden, I could tell you story after story about a little old part or a PVC pipe fitting or just something that I needed that sometimes I'd go ahead and go on to Lowe's and get, and then about an hour later I'd stumble across it right here on the place just waiting to be used. So I've learned, look on the place before you go to Lowe's, and I hadn't had to make that many trips to Lowe's since then. Sorry guys. But even today, I posted earlier, we have the chicken house is pretty long roost, and it's got, you know, hanging feeders and drip waterers and pretty good deal. And these big old white broilers are crawling up in them nesting boxes and laying eggs. I'm getting about 4 or 5 a day, and they're steadily getting more. So it's kind of cool. But we've got a lot of biddies that we're raising. And I found an old chicken catching cage on the place, and it worked okay. But then I found some that are a little bit more manageable. They're on wheels. And I put them, measured it out, and we've got this old crib here that I think was used for a calf or a hog or something way back in the day. But it's got a old big owls cutting up in there. But they better not be after old Peg. I'll get on them. Peg's my girl out there. But anyway, this thing has a slab to it. And I got to thinking, man, I got to split these chickens out. So y'all saw the picture before. And let's take a look at it now. So came in and cleaned it all out this evening. Talking about needing stuff and finding it. This old junk lid, I've had this with no cover on it. I just about chunked it on the pile and said, well, wait a minute. I don't even know what it's off of. It sure fits nice on top of that to keep the chickens out. But as you can see, we got video operation in full swing. Let's see if that signal will hold. These were hatched. These are the newest ones. These are on hatch date of 9/5. So they're not that old. There's about 34 of them in there. Then we've got some a little older here from 8/29. And then this batch over here, they don't need the heating lamp anymore. They're getting pretty big. I split them up into 2. There's a dozen in there, and then I'm still utilizing that one condo, I call it, in there. My next challenge was what to line the bottoms of it with, because pine straw or pine shavings really wasn't working out. They'd kick it all out. And these have grates on it, and you got these little chickens. I didn't want them falling through the grates or hurting their feet. Guess what? Use your head, and as much feed as we go through, Lone Star provided me the bottom without knowing it for these chicken cages, because as much as we go through, we can change them just about daily. Get through this door here, and works out perfect. So we get to reuse the old feed bags. Now the intent is to run right by the chicken house. I'm gonna make this a little run for my teenagers, if you will, during the day. Of course, it doesn't have a top, but they'll be big enough to. We'll make sure there's no predators over here. I'll get it all secure. But anyway, I guess it's turning into a straight out chicken farm, if you will. Who would have thunk it this time last year? Oh, y'all know them lamps you can't do without when you're first starting out. You get them from Walmart for like 10 bucks. And then as you move around, it's just an ugly eyesore in the corner. At least it was for us in the house. Well, I found a spot for it. A little overhead lighting in the chicken barn. You do, right? You do. Well, the heating lamps are on, the chickens are fed in there, and the adult chickens are about to roost out. So it's about to be another evening we can call done. Let me see who all's on here this evening. See what y'all got saying here. If I can operate my thumb right. And let's go on back. There's my sweetheart Tanaya. She's in the midst of Hurricane Florence, right smack dab in Wilmington. And rain has not stopped. We're staying in touch with her, and limited battery life on the phones, and trying to run the generator where they can to make coffee. That's important. But safe and sound for now. It's still under tornado warnings in that area and a lot of rain. So continue to keep her and all those in thoughts and prayers, and she'll make it through it, I'm sure. Gotta make it through it. Miss Charlotte's watching. How are you? Bruce, my buddy's watching. My Sunday school teacher from way back, Linda Grigsby's on. Good to see her. Hey Sharon, how are you? Teresa's on. Allison, how are you doing? Carolyn, yes, I do have some gardenias in the backyard. One of them old crazy hedges took it over, but I'm working on battling it back. And I think you asked me about a mimosa tree way back, and I think there's one wild there on the back of the place. Miss Stacy Spur out of Etoll, how you doing? My buddy Manuel Rodriguez, how are you, sir? Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Margaret from San Antonio. Well, yeah, it's been lots of hard work, Margaret, but it's been worth it. Gary, good evening. How are you? And old school chairs. It's not like, yeah, those would be a lightning trap, wouldn't they, Manuel? I guess I'm behind here. Bring a watermelon for you? I may just do that. I may sure do that. It ain't gonna look like much, but it ought to eat good. The pirate from Lafayette's watching, and mosquitoes are biting me. The mosquitoes in Louisiana will carry you off, from what I've heard, so I ain't gonna complain. My buddy Ken, we reconnected today. If I want to say, I think he's up in Nebraska. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Ken. I believe so. Good friend. Mr. Phil, Wanda from Florida. My buddy Chris, how are you? Misty Dawn is watching. Carolyn, I'm just rambling now. Karen's on. Hey, sweetheart, again. And, well, Ken, I've been in action, bro. Just we had to get connected again. Yeah, Connie, I am too. Truth be known, looking at those corn ears, they're full. I mean, there's plenty of them on there, but they're not filling out quite like they should as they tassel out and get brown. And some of that is due to a prolonged period of rain at the wrong time. So I'm still not complaining. We'll have a little corn along and be thankful for it. But either way, the plants in the garden sure looks good. So we're not going to gripe or complain about it. Hey, it's Saturday night. Y'all have a good one. I'm going to wrap this up and enjoy the rest of my evening. And get ready for a little celebration of faith tomorrow at church over in Huntington. My good buddy Tony Ramey and Shane Greenville, two good friends of mine. I think they're down in Cotulla, Texas tonight at the LaSalle County Steakhouse. That's kind of a triumvirate for me because Brenda that runs that steakhouse is really good lady and does a lot to help others. And they're having a little special event for some bird hunters down there. Bird hunters in South Texas, go figure. But anyway, couldn't load up and go that way, got obligations here. And but hope they have a good, safe trip and an enjoyable time this evening. Anyway, we'll wrap it up. Y'all continue to be the difference and use what you got. You can make a pretty big difference with it. Just got to look for it. Be the light. Y'all have a good evening. Hey, pray for North Carolina. They're going to need a lot of help through this recovery. All of them, all the nation helped us recover from Harvey, and our neighbors, we need to rally and get ready to do the same for these folks affected on the East Coast and future storms to come. But can't do anything else. Please keep them in your prayers. All right, be the light. Y'all have a good evening.